Welcome back to Chat Like a Native. You know that feeling when you're trying to speak English?
Yeah,
But it feels like you're kind of stuck translating in your head.
absolutely.
Always a step behind.
For sure.
Well, today we're diving to a way to break free from that.
Yeah, it all starts with thinking less about those textbook rules
Well, yeah.
and more about how native speakers, actually construct sentences.
Exactly. We've got this source. It's called Stop Memorizing Grammar Rules. Start Thinking Like a Native Speaker.
Okay.
It's got this subtitle, Mastering English Sentence Structure.
Nice.
And it's kind of blowing my mind a little bit.
Really? In what way?
Did you know that most native speakers
Yeah,
barely even think about grammar when they're talking?
it's true. It's
Like we've got this secret code running in the background.
Yeah, and today we're going to decode it for you.
Yes.
You'll see how to build sentences in a way that feels natural and intuitive.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this a bit. I've definitely been guilty of this myself, obsessing over grammar rules.
I think we all have.
Why is that actually a problem when we want to speak fluently?
Imagine this. You're trying to have a conversation.
Oh.
But, in your mind, you're flipping through a mental grammar textbook,
Oh, yeah.
trying to find the right rule for every sentence.
Oh.
It slows you down,
Right.
makes you hesitate,
Yeah.
and can even make you, afraid to speak up at all.
Ugh, that's the worst. I remember I was trying to order food in Italian,
Oh, yeah?
and I was so worried about, using the right verb tense
Mm-hmm.
that I ended up just pointing at the menu.
I've done that.
It's so embarrassing.
It happens to the best of us.
It does.
But the good news is
Yeah.
there's a more natural way to build fluency.
I like that, yeah.
Instead of memorizing rules,
Yeah.
we can learn to recognize those underlying patterns and structures
Okay.
that native speakers use.
So where do we even begin with that?
Right.
What are the core building blocks
Yeah.
of natural English speech?
Every sentence, it doesn't matter how simple or how
Yeah.
complex,
Yeah.
has two fundamental parts: the subject and the predicate.
Okay.
The subject is the who or what of the sentence.
Okay.
The predicate tells us what the subject is doing or being.
Okay, I think I'm following.
Okay.
So in a sentence like the cat naps,
Yeah.
the cat is the subject
Exactly.
and naps is the predicate.
Precisely.
Okay, cool.
It might seem really basic,
Yeah.
but mastering this
Yeah.
is like laying the foundation for a house.
Right.
You can't build anything interesting without a solid base.
Love it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So once we have that foundation,
Right.
how do we start building more interesting and complex houses? Meaning sentences.
That's where the four main sentence types come in.
Okay.
Simple, compound complex, and compound complex.
Wow.
Now, I know that might sound a little bit intimidating,
Wet, yeah.
but trust me, it's more like having different tools in your toolbox
I like that.
rather than memorizing a bunch of rules.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So let's break down those types.
Okay.
One by one.
Yeah.
You mentioned simple sentences first. What are those all about?
Simple sentences are the most straightforward.
Mhm.
They have one subject and one predicate.
Okay.
Just like our earlier example, the cat naps.
Right.
Think of it as expressing a single thought.
Okay, got it. So that's our starting point.
Yeah.
What about compound sentences?
Compound sentences combine two simple sentences,
Okay,
connecting them with words like and, but, or.
got it.
For example, you could say, the cat naps and the dog plays fetch.
Okay.
You're essentially expressing two related thoughts.
So compound sentences allow us to build upon that single thought
Right.
with another
Exactly.
using those connecting words.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about complex sentences?
Okay.
They sound a bit more, complex.
They are a bit more intricate.
Okay, but don't worry, they're manageable.
Okay.
A complex sentence includes a main clause,
Mm-hmm.
which could stand alone as a simple sentence,
Okay.
and at least one subordinate clause,
Got it.
which adds more information but can't stand alone.
Okay.
For instance, the cat naps because it's tired.
Right.
Because it's tired provides additional context,
Uh-huh.
but wouldn't make sense as a standalone sentence.
Okay, interesting. So it's like the subordinate clause adds
Right.
depth and detail
Right,
to the main thought.
exactly.
Okay, and finally we've got the compound complex sentence.
Yes,
I'm guessing this is where things get really fancy.
you got it. It's like the ultimate sentence building challenge,
Okay.
combining elements of both compound and complex structures.
All right, so give me an example.
You might say, the cat naps because it's tired, but the dog continues to play fetch because it has endless energy.
Wow, okay.
See how we've combined two independent thoughts
Yeah.
with their own subordinate clauses.
That is a mouthful, but...
Honestly, when I hear native speakers talking,
Right.
it doesn't sound like they're consciously going through these sentence types
Yeah.
in their heads.
It's not a conscious process.
So what's the real secret to how they construct sentences so fluently?
That's the key question. The secret lies in recognizing and utilizing patterns and chunks of language.
Okay, I like it.
Instead of consciously applying grammar rules, native speakers have internalized these elements through years of exposure to the language.
Hold on. Patterns and chunks. What exactly are those?
Yeah.
I need some concrete examples here.
Think of patterns as sentence templates. For instance, I would like to. Or can you tell me? Are common patterns that you can use to create a variety of sentences just by plugging in different words. Chunks, on the other hand, are pre-packaged phrases that native speakers store in their memory and use effortlessly. Think of phrases like, it's up to you.
Gotcha.
Or see you later.
And now that you mention it, I definitely hear those phrases all the time. It's like they're pre-assembled building blocks that we can just snap into our sentences. So if we want to sound more natural, we need to start paying attention to these patterns and chunks, right?
Absolutely. The more you notice them in real-world English, the more intuitively you'll start using them in your own speech.
Got it.
It's about shifting from consciously following rules to unconsciously recognizing and using these patterns.
It's like learning a new dance.
It is.
At first, you're thinking about every step.
Exactly.
But eventually, it becomes fluid and natural.
It does.
So, are there any common pitfalls that we, as intermediate learners, should be aware of when it comes to sentence structure?
Definitely. One common mistake is overusing simple sentences.
Oh, okay.
While they're perfectly fine, relying on them too heavily can make your speech sound deaf. So a bit choppy and monotonous.
Oh, I've totally been guilty of that.
Happens.
It's like I'm afraid to venture beyond
the
safety of the simple sentence.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But the key is to start experimenting with those compound and complex structures.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to combine ideas. Using conjunctions, or add subordinate clauses to provide more context and detail.
So it's about pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones.
It is.
And embracing those more complex structures.
Exactly.
Even if it feels a little bit intimidating at first.
Exactly. Another common mistake is forgetting about subject-verb agreement. Especially with third-person singular subjects. For instance, instead of he walks, we'd say he walks to ensure the verb matches the subject. It's a small detail, but it makes a big difference in sounding natural.
Those little details can trip us up.
Yeah, and I bet punctuation is another tricky area.
Oh, for sure.
Especially with those longer, more complex sentences.
Yeah.
You're right. Punctuation is often overlooked. But it plays a vital role in clarity and readability. Incorrect punctuation, particularly in complex sentences, can result in run-on sentences that are difficult to follow.
Okay, so how can we get better at punctuation in complex sentences? It feels like a whole other layer of complexity.
Don't overthink it.
Okay.
It's about paying close attention to how commas, semicolons, and other punctuation marks are used in well-written English.
Got it.
You can look up rules and examples and practice applying them in your own writing and speaking.
Okay, so it seems like mastering sentence structure is really about developing a feel for the language. Rather than just memorizing rules. It's about tuning into the rhythm and flow of natural English.
Precisely. It's about training your ear and your mind to recognize and reproduce the patterns and rhythms that native speakers use. And that's where things get really exciting. Because it opens up a whole new level of fluency and expression.
I'm excited to hear more about that. Yeah, it's so freeing to think about sentence structure this way. You know, as something we can feel rather than just memorize. But how do we actually put this into practice? Like, what are some tangible steps that we can take to start, like, thinking like a native when it comes to building sentences?
One of the most effective ways is to immerse yourself in, like, real-world English. Listen to podcasts like this one.
Of course.
Watch movies and TV shows. Read books and articles. Pay attention to how native speakers structure their sentences in different contexts.
So it's not just about passive listening or reading, right?
Right.
We have to like actively engage
exactly.
with the language and try to notice those patterns and chunks we were talking about.
Exactly. Don't just let the words wash over you. Jot down interesting phrases, try to repeat them out loud, and even try to incorporate them into your own sentences.
That's a great tip. I find that when I write down new phrases or chunks, I'm much more likely to remember them and use them later.
Exactly.
Are there any other techniques you recommend for really internalizing these patterns?
Shadowing is another powerful technique.
Okay.
This involves listening to a native speaker and trying to repeat what they say as closely as possible.
Got it.
Mimicking their pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm.
Ooh, I've heard about shadowing.
Yeah.
It's like having a personal language coach.
It is.
Right in your ear.
Yeah.
Seems like a great way to improve pronunciation and fluency.
Exactly.
At the same time.
It really is. And here's the best part. The more you practice recognizing and using patterns and chunks, the less you'll have to rely on consciously thinking about grammar rules.
Oh, nice.
It becomes more intuitive, like second nature.
That's the dream, right? To be able to speak English without constantly second-guessing ourselves.
Right.
But let's be real, it's a journey.
Of course.
And there are going to be bumps along the way.
It's true.
What words of encouragement do you have for our listeners who might be feeling discouraged or overwhelmed?
Remember that making mistakes is an essential part of learning any skill, especially language. Think about it. When the baby is learning to walk, they fall down countless times.
Right.
But they don't just give up.
No, they don't.
They get back up and keep trying until they master it.
Right.
Language learning is no different.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
We need to be patient with ourselves.
Absolutely.
And embrace those stumbles along the way.
Yeah.
They're not failures. They're opportunities to learn and grow.
Exactly. And remember that fluency isn't about achieving some kind of perfect, error-free English.
Right.
It's about being able to communicate your thoughts and ideas effectively. And confidently, it's about connection.
Yeah, communication is all about connection.
Exactly.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into sentence structure, what are some key takeaways you want listeners to walk away with? What are those aha moments that can really help them chat like a native?
First and foremost, shift your mindset from grammar obsession to pattern recognition.
Okay.
Instead of getting bogged down in rules, start noticing how native speakers actually build sentences.
Got it.
Pay attention to those patterns, those chunks, the rhythm, the flow.
It's like we're becoming language detectives.
Yes.
We have to put on our Sherlock Holmes hats and crack the code of natural English.
Exactly.
What else should we keep in mind?
Don't be afraid to experiment.
Oh, okay.
The more you try out different sentence structures, new vocabulary, and different ways of expressing yourself, the more fluent and confident you'll become.
I like that. And remember, the journey to fluency is ongoing.
Okay.
There's always more to learn.
It's true.
And explore.
Yeah, it's not about reaching a destination.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey.
Exactly.
But becoming a more confident and expressive communicator.
Yeah.
So for all of our listeners out there who are on this journey with us, what's one final thought-provoking question that you want to leave them with? Something for them to ponder as they continue on this path to chatting like a native.
I'd ask them to consider this. How can you start incorporating more of those patterns and chunks we've talked about into your own speaking?
Yeah.
What specific steps could you take today to start noticing them, practicing them, and making them a natural part of your communication style?
Yeah, that's such a great question to ponder. You know, it's all about taking that awareness of patterns and chunks and turning it into action.
Precisely. It's about moving beyond simply recognizing these elements.
Right. In other people's speech.
Okay.
And starting to use them actively in your own conversations.
So instead of just being a language detective, we become language architects.
Yeah.
Building our own fluent sentences.
I love that.
Using these native speaker tools.
Yeah. And the more you build, the more confident you'll become.
It's like anything else we learn.
It is.
Practice makes progress.
Yeah.
The more we use these patterns and chunks, the more natural they'll feel.
Absolutely.
And the less we'll have to think about them consciously.
Exactly. It's about training our brains to work more like a native speaker's brain.
Okay.
Recognizing and using these elements effortlessly.
And the beauty of it is that this approach doesn't just help us sound more natural.
Right.
it also frees up our mental energy.
Yeah.
So we can focus on what we really want to say.
Absolutely. Instead of getting bogged down in grammar rules,
right,
we can focus on connecting with others.
Yes.
Sharing our ideas and expressing ourselves authentically.
Which is what communication is all about, right?
It is.
It's not about achieving perfect grammar.
Right.
It's about connecting with other human beings.
Couldn't say it better myself.
Wonderful.
So to all of our listeners out there,
yeah,
keep exploring, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep chatting.
That's the perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
A huge thank you to our expert for sharing their incredible insights with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And to you, our amazing listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of English sentence structure.
Yes.
We hope you've gained some valuable tools and inspiration to help you on your journey to chat like a native.
Absolutely.
Keep practicing. Keep experimenting.
Yes.
And we'll catch you on the next episode.